everyone, and welcome to this Warhammer 9th edition battle report. We have a doubles matchup here of Admech and Astra Militarum versus Deathguard and Dark Angels. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at our mission. So the mission for this match was a scouring with 5 objectives. And just to mention too, this was practice for LVO, so our opponents, who are the Deathguard and the Dark Angels, are practicing to go to the LVO. So let's dive on into our secondaries. Apologies for the blurry photos. We have our Admech and Astra engage on all fronts to the last. Retrieve Octarius data. The Deathguard and Dark Angels have Strategic Scan, Oath of Moments, which is one of the Space Marine ones, and Assassination. So we're going to jump on into the army lists. So again, each side was 2,000 points. We'll start off with the Dark Angels and Deathguard. So with the Dark Angels, you can see this massive unit of nasty Terminators of Thunderhammers and Storm Shields. You also had a character in there as well, a chaplain of some sorts and a hero, and then another unit of Termies, and that was basically his 1,000 points. And then for the Deathguard, we have 2 of these forgeable drop pods, which are pretty nasty, and 2 units of the souped up Terminators for Deathguard with Flamers, and then he also had a Lords of Contagion and a Plague Caster, I believe it's called. So that was their list, a very small list, but a lot of wounds to go through and toughness. So we're going to look at our next list, which is of course the Astra Militarum and Admech. So with this list, we'll start off with the Admech. He had a unit of little flyer dudes with the Flamers in reserve. Then also a copter with the bombs. Very useful little flyer. Then we also have the Chicken Walkers with the las guns that are really nasty. A unit of 20 of their infantry squads, and then he has another unit, I believe, tucked in, along with infiltrators. Those guys were really awesome in this matchup. And then he also has a marshal, and I believe for the most part that was his list. And then we're moving on to the Astra Militarum. Nothing in reserve for them. We have a Vulture gunship. We have 5 units of Astra Militarum infantry squads. 1 squad, this one here, having a meltagun. 2 company commanders. One was kind of hiding over here, the other one over there. An Astropath, which is also hiding behind this piece of terrain. And then a tank commander with the Demolisher cannon, and then the same with a secondary tank here for heavy support, also with the Demolisher cannon. And that was basically the list for the Astra Militarum and the Admech. And we're gonna just make a disclaimer here. This list here for the Admech and Astra was tailored to go up against this list of Deathguard and Death Angels. So we're going to jump on into looking at our deployment here. So we're at our local game store, Gamers Den. A little shout out to them. And we have, again, the 5 objectives being marked. And that was basically deployment. So you'll also see just a few characters and a squad of Termies back here. And then the rest of everything else is deployed over here. So Astra Militarum and Admech got turn 1. So there was a lot of movement, move that happened here. So basically all the squads moved up. The infiltrators also moved up as well for the Admech. Chicken Walkers kind of hung back. The bomber dropped, again, one of its bombs, killed, I believe, 1 Terminator and wounded a character. And that was basically it for the shooting, all the movement. Now there was an unfortunate psychic incident where the Astropath blew out his brains, so that gave a point already for assassination, basically before the Deathguard and the Death Angels got a chance to attack. So we're going to look at turn 1 for DG and DA. So with this, they dropped down their drop pods, unloaded their payload, moved up and got onto this point with the Terminators here. They actually assaulted that unit on that point and wiped out that unit. I should also mention that the Astra Militarum are Catachan, for the purpose of this battle, and the Admech are Mars, I believe. So that unit got wiped. They ended up holding up that point. There's also a caster character over here behind that drop pod. And there's also another little character tucked in here. And that was basically the end of turn 1 for the DG and DA. So we're going to move on to turn 2 for the Admech and Astra Militarum. So if this turn the infiltrators ran up and getting ready to assault over here, a lot of orders were issued. First rank, second rank fire, and a couple more moves. We got some more guardsmen who ended up getting on this point, and some more over here. Copter moved over, and the Vulture gunship flew off the board because it didn't have anywhere to turn. Between shooting and a whole bunch of different things, wounded a couple of those Terminators, and also took out the one drop pod with the chicken walkers, which was huge because those things are nasty. And I believe that was most of the shooting. So we're going to move on to the second part of this turn. So with the combat phase, the Astra Militarum did a charge over here in the middle and ended up tying up this character on the point, and then heroic interventions and all that stuff, so they ended up getting on the point, but thank goodness for objective secure. And then over here, the infiltrators completely wiped out that Deathguard unit. So the one thing to keep note is these guys are not on the board yet. They're going to pop down fairly soon. And yeah, that was the end of Admech Astra turn 2. So for deployment for the Deathguard and Dark Angels on turn 2, we have a very slow move from the Deathguard here, moving on up to eventually take this point. The drop pod moved on over, actually does some mortal wounds if it gets within a certain distance of models, and nearly wiped out that unit. And yeah, the Terminators dropped down in. Real scary thing right there. And actually, if it wasn't for this one dude surviving, these Terminators could have plopped in even closer and got better charge off on these infiltrators. So this guy actually made a huge difference on where things could pop in, which was very handy. So the next part with the charging and the shooting, the Terminators made it in. This squad, I believe, finally got wiped out, but those characters weren't able to, again, move into this unit. And yeah, this squad down here got almost completely obliterated by the Lord of Contagion here, who just charged on in and nearly wiped them out. And yeah, at the end of combat, actually, that was from the shooting with the flamers from those Terminators. Yeah, they were finished off. That point is now the Deathguard and Dark Angels. And over here, the squad still hung on for dear life against the Terminators. And unfortunately, the Infiltrators did not end up getting the ability to attack first. They had, I believe, some sort of thing allowing things to attack last, and things got canceled out. Anyways, they didn't go first, so they got obliterated. But a very handy unit that took care of that Terminator squad beforehand from the Deathguard. So we're going to move on next to Admech and Astra Militarum turn 3. So here we have this unit that fell back. Over here on this point, the Copter came in, dropped some bombs, really whittled down that Terminator squad, which is handy. And our flyer, the Vulture gunship, came in and plucked, I believe, a wound or two off of the Lord of Contagion. While everything else shot at the Lord of Contagion, he took a lot of bullets, and I believe he was down to 2 wounds. The Chicken Walkers did some work. I believe they annihilated that other drop pod. And with that, the rest of the shooting just plinked off a couple wounds here and there. So we're going to look at turn 3 next for the Deathguard and Dark Angels. So here, oh, I forgot to mention, last turn, I believe the Flaming Boys came down and wiped off the Plaguecaster over here. So that was also a thing I missed. But these guys moved up towards the point. This guy here is going to assault this tank. And you'll see that these Terminators were bombed last turn. So they're actually not going to be able to make a charge or move in. But these guys here in the middle will. So if we look at the second part with the charge phase, they got into combat and whittled down that squad. And the Lord Contagion made it to combat here and did some wounds against this tank. So that was basically the major things going on for turn 3 with the Deathguard Dark Angels. So with Admech Astra turn 4, these flyer boys moved onto the point to hold that. The Astra Militarum unit bravely moved on up and shot into this unit, not doing too much. Same with the tank commander. And this whole unit was actually annihilated via a combined shooting of basically this whole squad. I believe the tank commander may have finished off one of the last dudes. And yeah, that was a huge blow to them. And the Lord of Contagion, you'll see, is no longer there as well, so he got blasted off the board too. So very effective turn there for Admech and Astra, turn 4. For the Deathguard and Dark Angels, for this turn here, they ended up moving up to try and again get towards this tank and possibly towards this unit. And the Terminators moved on up to try and make a charge against the tank. And a little bit of shooting just killed, I believe, 1 or 2 guardsmen. So their shooting wasn't very effective at that point. So at the end of the turn, the tank actually got destroyed. Same with the other tank over here. Those Terminators made it into combat. And 1 lone guardsman held that point, which is actually a huge thing. So that chaplain unfortunately wasn't able to kill our lone Catachan guardsman. And then there's also a character just behind the Vulture gunship holding that point for the Deathguard and Dark Angels. So we're going to move on to turn 5 for Astra and Admech. So here the main thing was to keep our characters alive. So you'll see I put a character over here in this corner, a character over in this corner, because again, assassination, we didn't want them to get more points with that. This moved back. There's also a warlord here, the marshal, so didn't want him to die to those Terminators, so placement of things was key. This might have been a mistake here though, the chicken walkers getting too darn close to these Terminators, but in the end I think it worked out because you'll see it protects this character back here from getting assassinated. Of all the shooting and things, didn't do too much. I believe we almost killed that character on that point and did some wounds to these Terminators, and these guys were somewhat wounded, and I believe we dropped 1 or 2 of them. And that's turn 5 for Astra and Admech. And with the last part of turn 5 for the Dark Angels and Deathguard, the Chicken Walkers were pretty much annihilated here from the Blight Terminators, and they couldn't shoot down into this character back here, which was huge. The infantry squad got wiped out here that was surrounding the marshal, and the chaplain there refused to die, but having the soul Cadian there kind of swung the match in the end, which was kind of interesting. And then of course this character is still left alive, so not much left on the board. If it would have won another turn, definitely would have been a different story. So for the final score, it was a very close game. There was a score of 50 for the Admech and Astra Militarum, and for the Deathguard and Dark Angels, 49. So it was a win just by a single point for Admech and Astra Militarum. And some of the MVPs for this match. We had a lot of discussion about this. It was a great match. We were back and forth this whole game. It was a great list to go up against the Deathguard and Dark Angels. So the infantry for guard was huge on getting move and getting all the way up on the points, and also getting that first turn. That really kind of set the pace of the game. The chicken walkers and the bomber for the Admech were huge on slowing down charges and also just eliminating things. And then for the Deathguard Dark Angels, I believe they're the Deathwing or the Night Terminators. I think they're called the Night Terminators. Those did a lot of work. They're like basically an indestructible unit moving up the board. And then the Lord of Contagion just took wound after wound after wound, just soaking up all the firepower. So it was a really good match. Had a lot of fun. Can't wait to play again at our local store here. Until next time, happy hobbying.